Hi, I'm Stephen Garvey, founder, leader of National Citizens Alliance. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about policies. We put out a policy platform. It was last week, and we're going to go through it today. And from our standpoint, policies are very important in understanding an organization, a political party. What policies are a framework for decision making. They're also a framework for achieving outcomes, goals. So they're fairly critical. Without a policy framework, you're going to be just drifting, and you'll be susceptible to the whims of each and every day, whatever's going on. So you'll be all over the map. So policies really help direct you and guide you, and allow for the best decision making. Any credible organization will have policies that they're following and implementing. Uh, in terms of tweets, sound bites, these aren't policies. These are like responses to the whims of the day, and they are, in many cases, in a political sense, they are used to cater to what people think, what people want to hear. They're typically deceptive, deceitful, manipulative of the public, especially in a political sense. So you're just trying to say what you want people want to hear, and it's another way to avoid issues that you may not support, by focusing on other issues. For example, you could look at illegal migration and go on and on about illegal migration, but you never talk about mass immigration, right? So that's one example of that. So everything the NCA stands for is rooted in policy. We have an extensive list of policies that we have well thought out, and what we stand for, and this is what we will implement. So we raise the question to you: how can you expect to run an organization, let alone a country, without well thought out policies? How can you do that? Again, your decision making is going to be influenced by whatever's going on that particular day. You'll be all over the map. So we believe in strong policies, and that's why we have over 70 policies, NCA. We have taken the time, we've thought about the issues, we've debated the issues, we've listened to public input. So we encourage the general public to look into policies. Don't be influenced by tweets or sound bites, because typically they're just there to manipulate you. Look at the policies, and they will give you a good idea of what that particular individual or organization stands for. In our opinion, it's a major red flag if an organization does not have well thought out concrete policies. That's a major red flag. And so we're going to look at these policies we put up here. And here's the policy comparison. We're only looking at, it looks like there's 10 issues here. 11 issues that we're looking at here. There's obviously a lot more, but we're comparing it to the mainstream parties, NCA. And the first thing you'll see from this policy comparison is that the NCA is totally different from the mainstream parties in terms of policy. There's a huge contrast. Another thing that you'll note right off the top is that the mainstream parties are all virtually the same. You can't distinguish them in terms of policy. So, in our opinion, you have a clear choice in 2019. You got the NCA here with this clear, unique policy platform, and then you got the mainstream parties. So we're going to go through the first one, Bank of Canada. NCA supports restore the 1934 Bank of Canada Act and with amendments. So what we want to do is create a public bank, and we also want to shift the public lending right back to the Bank of Canada, and we want a massive debt reduction. If we look at these four mainstream parties, they all want to keep borrowing from the central banks, allow the central banks to keep printing our money, and there's over 64 billion in debt service payments to the central banks right now, and over 30 billion from the federal government debt that just keeps growing. So this is a real problem. We take it seriously. The mainstream parties just want to keep the status quo on the Bank of Canada. Immigration. NCA supports a moratorium with no set time frame, and then 50,000 or less per year. And this is all based on what's in the best interest of the Canadian people. We do not believe necessarily that immigration is good for the economy. We definitely know it's bad for the environment, and it's bad for our society, especially mass immigration. So this is what we're committed to. If we look at the mainstream, the three top mainstream parties, we're looking at 350,000 per year, which is the status quo, and it could be higher. The Bernie party is 250,000 plus per year, and we're basing this on policy. We don't base it on tweets. We are aware Bernie was saying 2,050 or less in a tweet, but if you look at his policy, he praises Harper's historic mass immigration, which was 250,000 plus, 280,000 plus. So we're going with this because that's what's in the policy. Trade. NCA supports international trade that benefits Canada. No globalist trade, no globalist middleman, government taking the profits from the producers, passing on extra taxes to the consumer. We want international trade that benefits Canada. If you look at the mainstream parties, they all support globalist trade like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, without question. Bernie praises TPP, in fact, if you look at his policies, and he wants globalist trade with India and China, as do the rest. Let's look at foreign aid. We had a good meme up today. I'll show you that later, but NCA supports a 75% reduction in foreign aid. Right now, it's around 5.6 billion a year, and I'll just show you that meme we had up today. This will put everything in context. It says, "Do you support Trudeau's foreign aid outflow?" Afghanistan, 237 billion. Uganda, 493 million. Pakistan, 1.15 billion. Total overall, 56.6 billion. Actually, it was the Conservatives from 2005 to 2015. They had a foreign aid outflow over 56 billion of your tax dollars. NCA supports a 75% cut in foreign aid, focus on Canadians in need. So if we come back to this, the mainstream parties, no change. No, they like the status quo on the foreign aid outflow. Bernie talks about a reduction, but there's zero specifics. So we question the credibility of that policy, whether he's willing to reduce it. He doesn't have any specifics. We support 75%. Bureaucracy. NCA believes the federal government is completely bloated. It's inefficient. It's wasting a lot of tax dollars. We support a 50% reduction in the federal bureaucracy. The mainstream parties, no change. And again, Bernie, he mentions a reduction, but no specifics, nothing. We shift to the next one. Withdrawal Canada from the UN Agenda 2030. We have a specific, this is in our UN policy. We will withdraw Canada from UN Agenda 21, UN Agenda 2030. Yes. The rest of the parties, no. And if we look at Bernier here on the end, none of these parties, in fact, have ever mentioned UN Agenda 2030, which was adopted by Harper in 2015, and it is being implemented by all levels of government right now. And there's zero opposition in Ottawa to Agenda 2030. They don't even mention it, but it's going on. Canada Pension Plan, CPP. NCA supports major reform. We believe this plan has lost its way. Canadian taxpayers, Canadians who pay into this plan, are getting ripped off without question. We are committed to a 3 times increase in annual benefits. And part of our plan will ensure that when a pensioner dies, 100% of what left will be passed on to their spouse and or to their children. And right now, that's not the case. The mainstream parties, no change. Status quo on the pension plan. And the next one, climate change is a hoax. Yes, that's part of our climate change policy. We believe the climate change agenda coming out of the UN is a hoax. And we have videos on that. And we believe it started with Maurice Strong and Canadian Maurice Strong. And it was just a fabricated existential threat. The mainstream parties have never said that climate change is a hoax. Recall of MPs. Yes, that's in the NCA Constitution, and it's also in our governance policy. So check that out. None of the other parties, no. They have nothing on recall of MPs in their policies. Citizen-initiated referendum. Yes, that's in the NCA's governance policy. The mainstream parties have nothing in their policies on citizen-initiated referendum. Constitutional reform. NCA supports at least 9 amendments to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And we have a policy constitutional amendment where we list those 9 amendments. We believe the Charter is highly deficient. It has major flaws. And that's why we're proposing 9 amendments. The mainstream parties, no. No changes to the Constitution or Charter. In fact, Bernier, I was reading, he doesn't believe there's any major issues with it. So they're all no. So that gives you an idea. You could see the clear difference between NCA and these mainstream status quo parties. And this is all based on fact. This is based on policy. And it is what it is. This will give you an opportunity to make up your own mind come 2019. But clearly, there is a clear choice with NCA versus the mainstream parties. It's right there in those policies. And we will do more policy comparison. But that's all there is to say. So you have a clear choice. Here's our policy page. We encourage people to go on there, take a look. If you go to our main website under policies, you'll see our platform there. And then you'll see our policy statements. We have about almost 70 policies on our page. So we take that very seriously. And this is the foundation for everything we are standing for. It's the foundation for our platform. So we hope you found this is informative. If you have any questions, send us to us and we'd be happy to answer them. Leave your comments in the post below. And if you support the NC policies, our platform, where we stand, Please support us today. Become a member, donate, run in 2019. It is only through you, the Canadian people, that any meaningful change will occur. This is a fact. The power is in your hands. NCA is just a mere vehicle. If you like what the NCA stands for, then support it. Thank you for joining me.